All right, Giana.
Hi.
Giana, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I grew up in Seattle, Washington.
Seattle.
I was born in Vegas I was there for 3 years, and then my parents had divorced, and so mainly grew up all the way through in Seattle.
And how would you describe your childhood?
Um, it was good. I had me and my little sister. When my mom and dad split, my dad was still pretty active in my life, but more virtually, just kind of like calls every day. Since he was in Vegas, he would make trips to see us. So a lot of back and forth with that. But overall, just very loving family. Great, yeah, good
A good
childhood.
childhood. Mm-hmm. That's nice. And you went through high school?
I did. I graduated. Yep,
Excellent. And now, how old are you now? You're
25.
25. And at some point, you started having problems with your, probably, how would you describe it? Brain chemistry?
Yeah, it was kind of around when I was younger, pretty much throwing some crazy fits as a kid does, just but as I still got older, my reaction to things were like a very, very small issue would have me erupt. I mean, I can remember one like about wanting to wear something of my sister's to the movies or something, and she had said no, and I just ended up freaking out, canceled the whole night, like whatever, things like that were just kind of like, oh, why are you so freaked out about that? And it was just, yeah, I think the reactions were did not align with like the event that was going on. So it was just,
And this started at what age?
yeah, this was probably around 12 or 13, like, and because I had moved over to Snohomish for middle school and high school. That's where I had gone. And we moved around a lot, like as kids. My mom was, single mom, so she was getting different jobs, and we were always kind of the new kids. And that was tough, like for middle school, because everybody had their groups already, and so. But I ended up finding a place okay, but definitely just never felt like I had fit in and stuff. So that's where the reactions kept coming, and pretty sad a lot of the times.
What, what
So,
was your, what were your parents' reaction, or what was their
I mean,
attempt at fixing it?
yeah, my mom was kind of like, my dad wasn't fully aware just because he wasn't there all the time. So I don't know if he could really see those reactions. I can't fully remember if I was like, had an episode around him. He's an Italian guy, so he's just very like, yeah, I wanted to always be careful about how I was acting. And, but my mom, she met a guy while I was in high school, and he had pointed out, this doesn't look right. That was kind of the thing. I think my mom was a little, at that time, it wasn't, mental health wasn't as like, there wasn't a lot of awareness on it. So I think she was kind of stuck too. I don't know if she really knew what to do, what
It's hard
steps
for a
to
parent.
take. Yeah, I think she just was like, yeah, and so a couple people had to point it out, and then that's when I had gone to see my doctor. They wanted me to try therapy, and I just wasn't having it, and I wasn't clicking with the right person. So I gave the doctor a try, and that's where the medication kind of came in.
So you tried therapy for a while.
I did. I met with probably 3 or 4, and at that time I was just getting out of high school and had the mentality of, well, I guess kind of to backtrack, that's why I started smoking weed and like self-medicating and thinking it was gonna kind of ease my anxiety and depression. And I didn't know what I had at that time, but I knew this was making me feel good, so maybe I should stick with that. So that, the therapy part, again, the awareness was not there at the time, so I just had this thought of like, I don't feel like they care to hear my stuff, and that was my mentality. So I never really opened up and gave it a try at that time. And then we just there was only the other option was to go get a doctor that could put me on medication to stabilize the moods.
And tell me about your self-medicating, your drug use.
Yeah, it was just weed. My senior year of high school, I got really into it. I felt like most of high school I felt like I was trying to fit into places and with people that it wasn't me. I always felt off about that. I made great friends though. I still talk to a few to this day, but in that moment I wasn't. So, I started smoking weed and went with a different crowd my senior year and kind of backed out of wanting to be that, I guess maybe the popular person, I don't know, but I just took a step back to, we smoked a lot and just got high. I made it through high school fine, and that's the reason I kept justifying the smoking is I would just call myself a functional stoner. And I'd just be like, hey, like I'm still getting, I can do this. Like I'm fine, Definitely wasn't smart. I was just driving around doing it all the time. My mom was definitely aware of it. It caused a big kind of a strain in our relationship at that time. And then I did move out when I was 18 because I just wanted to keep smoking. And that's how I was self-medicating for a bit. And I still did when I got on the medication. So I never fully gave up weed, which I know was probably just a big mistake. It wasn't helping. So.
And you started getting prescriptions for psych meds at what age?
Yeah, psych meds was in 2016 or 17, I think. I know I started with the general, the Prozac was the one that I started with. But the psychiatrist or the doctor actually hadn't diagnosed me with anything yet. It kind of was just like here you go. Like, my mom had explained the episodes I was having, so he thought the Prozac would help. The Prozac was making me feel kind of wired a lot. Definitely couldn't sleep. I was very, very amped up, and I was definitely trying to work on self-awareness through this to be like, what's working and what's not working. So I knew something was wrong. And he had then switched to Zoloft, which then did a complete 180 because the Zoloft was treating more of the anxiety, but the depression was there. So for me, I like to think that Prozac was helping my depression, making me happy, but constantly anxious always. And then the Zoloft was treating the anxiety. So it was going like back and forth, and neither one of those were working for me. And then that is when I met with a psychiatrist that actually diagnosed me with bipolar depression and anxiety. Yeah.
And put you on different medications?
Yeah, that's when I switched to lamotrigine, actually, and which is, lamotrigine has, as they explained, it was just like a stabilizer, mood stabilizer. So Prozac would treat one thing, Zoloft would treat the other. I was kind of dealing with the middle ground, so that was like the stabilizer. So it kind of brings your levels to the same. And I think I started, unfortunately, kind of at a high dosage. I think I was about on 300 milligrams of lamotrigine.
So during this time, when you're experimenting with different psych meds and also using, were there other drugs as well, or just pot?
So that was kind of the other drugs came in the picture after the psych meds, the lamotrigine, because it was, I was still struggling. And again, the awareness, like I didn't know who to really, it was hard to really talk to people. And so, yeah, I think it was still making me feel a type of depression, and I don't fully remember. My memory's a little fragmented there, but I know that around the age of 20, I had gone to Molly and cocaine and stuff like that throughout a period of my time, because I was still depressed and still trying to see what I could do to fix it. Probably not, uneducated there, but yeah.
And what kind of effects did all this have on your relationships with friends and your mood?
Yeah, it was, I would say for a time, I probably wasn't fun to be around. When I was really into weed before, because the Molly and cocaine was kind of like trying to fit in again, like going to concerts and things like that. And, I knew it wasn't smart to be mixing the two, like an SSRI and something like that. So I was trying to be careful, but it was pretty dumb. But before that, when I was just smoking weed and getting high all the time. I lost a pretty good chunk of friends because I was so introverted. I did not want to go out. I turned 21, I had a little bit of fun, and then I just kind of isolated myself from everybody and just was getting high all the time. So I lost some friends that, you know, that was hard, but.
During that period, do you feel like that was the real Giana at that point?
No, it wasn't at all. And in fact, it was like after the lamotrigine, I was still struggling, and I wasn't being very honest with my psychiatrist, which, of course, like looking back, I should have been a little more open about it and saying what I was doing. But she had a new drug came to the market. It was like a Latuda. There was commercials for it and stuff. And so she was like, well, I'm gonna put you on, I think 20 or 40 milligrams of Latuda while you're taking the lamotrigine to maybe help you. I think I was telling her I was having trouble sleeping and things like that, and this was supposed to help that, right? So now I was kind of double drugging a little on the antidepressants, and the Latuda just took a really bad turn. That was like, and that was only for two or 3 months, but I started like hearing voices, put me in I don't even remember being that way before that drug. Like that wasn't how I wasn't dealing with that. And I was just hearing things. I used to have to sleep with the TV on every night. I had a roommate. I don't really know if she even knew what was going on. And I remember I would have visions of me just blacking out, like completely. Was almost scared to drive a car because I would be driving and feel like I would just drop and lose control. I don't know. It was like, that's what was going through my head all the time. And I had a job at a restaurant, and I was always feeling, and I probably should have said something, and I kept kind of doing it, and it was just making me feel even worse and worse. So the weed picked up higher and higher to like try to fight it. And so that was like, I think if I didn't have like my mom talking with me and like helping me, I don't know, like I don't really know what would have happened. So that was the hardest one that I had to be like, I just had to tell my psychiatrist that I need to get off of this. I don't think this is right. Something's wrong.
Was there a time where you just wanted to get off of everything and just try that again?
To go just clean?
Clean?
Not at that time.
Yeah.
No, I still knew, I still wanted some help.
The problems were so...
Yeah. I was really scared. And then the thing goes with like, I just didn't know who I was. Like I didn't know Giana. I was like, not very in touch with myself. It was just very like, kind of felt like just a body kind of navigating through life. It wasn't like I didn't feel I was making connections with people, or I just felt really out of it for about 3 or 4 years of my life. It's hard to kind of remember some of that, but.
So your basic problems before the psych meds were your overreaction to things and depression?
Yeah, just depression. Yeah, not having anything in me to get up and go. I had a lot of insecurities, like people in high school. Was a normal thing, but I was struggling with finding my place in life, and I just had a lot of self-confidence issues, which made me not care so much for myself. So I was like doing drugs. I didn't map out a future for myself, and so it was probably, before all of this, was definitely just a lot of depression, not wanting to leave my room or leave. It was just, but on the other side, acting very, very happy to my peers in school and like outside and coworkers, just making sure like I didn't want to be like the depressed girl, So I tried my best to have fun and look like everything was okay. I just was, it was going downhill.
And your early 20s can be a time where typically a person will figure out what direction they want to go in life and really kind of push towards that. were you able to do any of that, or you were just kind of drifting?
I went to college. I went to a community college, and so my mom was really wanted me to go. I probably, if I didn't have her steering me down that path, probably would have never gone to school. But again, I kind of picked something to major in. I didn't know. I had no clue, you know, but I made it through college, high every day. You know, I did okay, but got my degree, still was like, I don't know, you know, like it was like, okay, I got the degree. I'm grateful for that, beyond grateful. I never had a plan for it. Some people go and they're like, they take the classes. I was checked out on a lot of them because nothing was really clicking for me. Actually, my last quarter, one of the last classes I took was on medicine, behavior, and like human. Yeah, that one was like, shit, I should have done this. I should have gone down that route. And I still contemplate going back and like doing something in psychology and things like that. And that class that was the one I was reading everything and kind of reading about the stuff I went through. And that was the first sign of like, I didn't feel like I was so alone. I was reading other people's stories because again, it wasn't so out there. People weren't very open with their mental health issues. I think there was like a stigma against it. So,
sure. And it also seems like the doctors don't have a really firm understanding of what drug is the right one for
maybe
a certain patient. So they experiment
True.
a bit.
Yeah, totally. And that's like, there's nothing against that. I just think for me, I ended up putting myself in a worse position by trying to self-medicate with other drugs. And so.
Did you have friends that are going through the same struggles?
Not at that time. I didn't, I don't think so. I didn't have, I know one of my roommates had struggled with depression too, and we would smoke all the time. So I know she was kind of on that. And I can't fully remember if she was taking any medication, but it was just, I felt like it was just kind of me to start on the journey. You know, no one in my close circle was kind of going through that. And definitely no one was going to like therapy or anything. So no one was really telling me like, gee, I think you should give this like another shot of like trying out therapy. Maybe it can benefit you more. So I didn't have any of that kind of guidance with my medication.
Did you feel like you're in a good place today?
Yeah, today is a lot better. I mean, still struggle. I got off of pretty much all the only antidepressant I stayed on was the lamotrigine because that one really wasn't ever giving me any negative side effects at all. The other ones we would try to work in with it was just not, you know. I was even trying to take, after the Latuda and telling them about the voices, I got 150 milligrams of Seroquel, but at that time when I was with my ex, he had said like, oh, that's something they give schizophrenic, that's a schizophrenic drug, you know, that they treat for schizophrenia, which I think was a misunderstanding because the Latuda was causing schizophrenia. So treating the schizophrenia that wasn't there anymore with the Latuda, I mean, I was a full zombie. I would take the Seroquel at night and I just know 30 minutes would set in and I couldn't move my body. I mean, if I was on the couch, I was staying on the couch.
So it sounds like you noticed the effects of each of these drugs.
Yeah, that's one thing. I was trying to pay attention to the way I was feeling. I wasn't enjoying it. So it wasn't fun, you know. I was definitely like, this can't be right. I'm not able to, the one memory I have is like someone was calling me and I remember just looking over and I couldn't even move my hand to get the phone call. It was like 9:30 at night and I'd taken that medication. And so I ended up, there's certain drugs you can kind of, what I was told was you can taper off of, and then there's certain ones that you can actually just kind of remove and get off of. So Latuda, I didn't have to like taper off. I was like, I'm done. I need to be done. The Seroquel, I had to taper a little down to, I think we took it by 50 milligrams and it was getting a little better. And then finally I just said, no, you know, never mind. So I got rid of that. So now it's only lamotrigine. I've gone from 300 milligrams to 75 today. So.
And you feel like you're in the best spot you've been since you've been taking these psych meds?
Yeah, I think there's definitely room for improvement, still like room for growth and self-work. It again, like when you say you're working on yourself, it takes work. It's not something you can just, for me, I couldn't just depend on something to fix that for me. So
The depression's a hard one for like
Yeah.
family members who just want to use common sense and reason and convince you that your life is great.
yeah,
It doesn't work like that.
that was hard too. You know, it was like, and I love my dad, an amazing man. It was hard for him to kind of see that because, you know, he would, of course, like I reflect a lot nowadays. I think at that time I wasn't really focusing on the things that I was grateful for and the things I had. It was always just the negatives. And that's been my shift of mind change as I've lowered on the medication, is now telling myself the things that I have to be grateful for. And that was hard for him because, you know, he would just be like, well, or, you know, the typical, like, you've got a great life. It's like, yeah, I'm just battling some demons. Like, I know I'm blessed. I'm not in denial about that. You know, I know there's people out there that have it much worse. It was just what was going on in my head was like, it just was a scary time. And I think, yeah, a lot of people, like, it's hard to understand that when people are struggling with real depression, like really a deep sadness that they're trying to mask and act like they're okay, you know?
And it almost makes it more difficult for you to hear everyone just saying, no, your life is great, relax.
Yeah, I definitely, that made me kind of stay quiet. I didn't feel, you know, there'd be times, another step I took too is I got off of social media completely. So I got off of it. And because there were times that I'd want to post, like, I need some help. A whole thing. And I knew that awareness was getting better and better and people were getting more open, but I was nervous. People would be like, who is this?
Did you feel like social media is I mean, we hear that it's a problem all the time, but do you feel like it's a serious?
You know, I think to each their own. Like, I think if you're using it for the right reasons and you've got, like, there can be very successful things that can happen with social media. So it's definitely not to be like, everybody should get off of it. And, you know, but for myself, I was not using it for the right reasons. It was like trying to, again, post for the likes and look like I've got a grand life and I'm happy and look at me, when I'd be typing the post and like tears just behind the screen, just miserable.
I suspect they can probably make you more depressed.
Just acting, and then you wouldn't hit your certain amount of likes, and you just be like no one likes me. The whole scheme that I was using it for, and I hit a point where I realized, like, how am I going to grow each day if I'm starting my day looking at how everyone else is living their life? Like, that is very, I'm holding myself back from that. You know what I mean? Because you can't. It's hard to. If you start your day by looking at someone in the Bahamas and you've got to go work your 9 to 5 or your job, I mean, it's just not a great start. And so since removing that, I have noticed in myself, and this could apply to other people too, I have just noticed the drastic change in self-confidence and like genuine happiness and just like kind of living in my own space, in my own bubble. And
That's
like
great.
Who comes into it and who leaves, it's just, I'm just navigating that part. So
Good for you.
yeah, I'm very happy about that part. And kind of in the ability to get down on medication, but it definitely isn't something that can happen overnight. It was a very hard journey. There were times I wasn't comfortable with going down anyways. Like, I would really want to try to go fast, and I had to take a step back because when the lockdown happened, I was trying to do that. But again, that was a very hard time for a lot of people that struggle with any type of mental illness, or, you know, it's that was hard to be locked in again, you know. That was still a lot of drinking for me and like trying to self-medicate through that. So definitely wasn't ready.
And your mom, who you live with still?
No, I don't live with my
You
mom.
don't live there.
Yeah,
but-
I've been on my own. I moved home actually I moved home, gosh, I can't remember the time, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I moved back home because I did quit weed, because I started smoking weed for 3 years, and then the last 2 years of the weed smoking, I was adding tobacco on the top to give that kind of that head rush. So it was a really, really dangerous thing because you just kind of smoking it right out of there.
So are you still smoking pot or using anything else?
I'm still, weed will be it's just been regulated more, and now I've kind of gone to CBD because I still struggle with smoking. That's the problem. I still have that addiction to wanting to smoke. So I've tried to regulate it, but I'm still kind of on that journey, you know?
You feel like pot is addictive?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's very hard. For me, I don't know, a lot of people would be like, oh, that's, you can get off of it anytime. I'm like, huh. But I think I've gotten it, I've tried to regulate it so that it's not the type of smoking I was doing in the past of like, I had to be high before every single thing. I mean, I would try to go home because when I lived in my apartment, I was like, okay, I'm going to not smoke in my car anymore because that's just stupid, you know, then the DUI, like all that. So then I just ended up going home. I would go home before everything to like smoke a bowl or two. And a lot of my family members knew what was going on. It was very obvious. And when I added the tobacco was when I just kind of dropped a ton of weight, was very unhealthy. And the reason I stopped, actually, one day I coughed up like some kind of black mucus. And I just remember I was 22 and I was like, if this is happening as I'm 22, I do not know what is going to happen in 10 years. That's not a good sign. So I actually just bagged up everything in a garbage bag, threw it over into a dumpster, and moved back home to sober up I went about 8 or 9 months.
How has your mom been through all of this?
Very, very supportive. Like I said, my senior year, we had a little breakaway. I was a little distant, but through everything, I probably wouldn't be here without her.
That's great.
Yeah, definitely
And
not.
where do you want to take your life now? You're 25. You have plenty of.
Yeah, I definitely want to do. Now I see myself in a career, so I do sales now. So that's kind of the career path I've been feeling like I'm good at. I would like to kind of get into things like helping those with mental health. Like that's something I've been contemplating going back to school, or maybe even just using the degree I have to try to go and do something like that. So I would like to do some help, and I guess just have a career. That's all I can see right. That's all I can see right now. I don't have all the little things mapped out.
Yeah, but stabilizing yourself mentally is a big part of being able to even think this way.
Yep. Yeah. So now it's crazy. Yeah. Now lowering the medication and kind of really stopping the consistent weed smoking, because now it's just like, you know, I mean, CBD will be a little more often, but if I want to do like a joint or something, I try to limit it to maybe twice a week. I try not to go every day and like get into depending on it to like get through the night. So with all of that lowering, I just have been like, I can see my future now, because all that time, I did not see anything for myself. It was almost like I would deal with some suicidal thoughts, but I never wanted to. I had all the love and support from my family. It never made me want to make do that action, but definitely was like, I guess the best way I could say it is like I was okay with dying like at any time, because I just did not I didn't see anything for myself. So if I guess that's kind of a weird way to put, I don't know, but.
And Giana, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned through all of this?
I would say the most important thing, just that working on yourself, it takes work for me, and it wasn't something that I could easily do. I think taking the time to figure out what works for you, and like
all these medications are still a mystery to everyone, it seems.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, again, it is like everybody's own journey, and maybe Latuda worked for some people, like things like that, you know, so it's not to say what could work for you, what could not, but just the most important thing I think is like being in touch with yourself and your emotions and how you're feeling. And, you know, that was what worked for me, was just being self-aware of like how I was feeling, and you know, just taking the steps that you can to work on you, put yourself first. And I think that's really important.
All right. Giana, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
I wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you.